is the time of year when people start to talk about players moving around to different locations. Steph Curry obviously has been in the news, this big contract potential extension. Here's what Bob Myers had to say about Steph Curry getting a deal done this summer.
As optimistic as you can be. I don't see any reason not to be optimistic. He seems like he's motivated. We're motivated. I would say pretty confident we'll get something done.
Do they get a deal done?
If they offer him the max key, which is a $215 million extension for 4 years, I don't see why he wouldn't commit. He's beloved there. He's had great success there, and I'm sure he believes in the franchise. The franchise is extremely well capitalized. They just sold off 5% of the team for $300 million. I mean, and even though they've struggled like everybody with the pandemic, they've got a ton of money. The question is, are they going to offer him that max contract? In the past, the Warriors have been shrewd negotiators. They got Kevin Durant to take a couple of years of less than max contracts. They got Andre Iguodala to maneuver his contract around. So do they come to him and try to appeal to him and say, hey, can you take a little less than the max so we can build this team over the next 4 years? But the real challenge in Golden State, and if I'm Steph Curry, this is what I want to know, maybe even beyond the money. They have James Wiseman, the number 2 pick in this year's draft, a prospect, a raw prospect. They're going to have 2 lottery picks in this draft. If Minnesota slides out of the top 3, they get that pick. And they have their own. Maybe Minnesota is in the top 3, and then it's an unprotected pick next year. Either way, it's a very valuable trade chip. If I was Steph Curry, I would say, what is our direction? Are we going to take these young draft picks, and you're going to draft guys, and I'm going to have 3, 19 or 20-year-olds on this roster trying to win? Or are we going to trade those pieces for bona fide players that when Klay Thompson comes back and Draymond Green is still in the back end of his prime, do we make one more push with this? That, to me, is as big of a decision organizationally as getting Steph to sign it on the line.
Wendy, in 12 years, he's made $200 million with the Warriors. Would his max be a $200 million max?
Yeah, he can add 4 years and $215. So he would double his career earnings. And
Isn't that amazing?
His value to the franchise is unquestioned. I mean, he is the guy they're coming through the doors to see. But it's not even just about the money. I mean, obviously they got to offer it to him. But if he doesn't hear what he likes about the way they've got the back end of his career planned, he may not sign it to see how it plays out.
Brian, let's talk about somebody who has value to an organization. That's Brad Stevens with the Boston Celtics. How important are these playoffs to his career in Boston?
Well, the Celtics this has been a bit of a lost year for them. I don't know how this series with the Nets will ultimately play out. Game 1 was competitive, but they're not going to win that series. The Celtics have some major decisions to make, and I've said this before. I think that across the board, the Celtics have not had a good 12 or so months. I think some of their ownership decisions have been hurtful. I think some of their front office decisions have been hurtful. I think some of the Brad Stevens coaching has not been his best, which he has admitted. And I think some of their players haven't delivered at the level that they expected them to deliver, whether it was due to injury or through other circumstances. So there's going to be a lot that's going to have to be manipulated on the Celtics. The thing I would say, though, is they have 2 star perimeter players in their early 20s under long-term contract. That is the tough thing to get. That is what everybody who was on the outside of the title contention window is trying to get. So in a lot of ways, the hard part is done for them. I don't know if there's anything Brad can do in the short term here, but obviously their game plan and their roster moves coming into next year have got to be a step above where they were this year.
Yeah, there's no doubt it's not acceptable. The standard's much different there in Boston. And Brian,